Hello and welcome to Recipes with Ben. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up a keg for pressure fermentation. Before I begin, I want to say that all the items used in this video were provided to me by morebeer.com. So I want to extend a huge thank you to them for sending them to me, and if you want to get any of the items you see for yourself, I'll have links for them down below in the description box. Now, you may ask yourself, if you've never fermented under pressure, why would I do this? And there are numerous benefits to pressure fermentation, but the main one is that at 10 psi, the added pressure helps suppress esters and phenol compounds by keeping them in solution during fermentation. These compounds can be undesired off flavors in most beer styles, so that means because of this, you can ferment at a higher temperature than the yeast is typically recommended, which means the best thing you can do is make a lager at room temperature without the need for cooling. Let me know, have you ever fermented under pressure? If so, what kind of beers did you make? Now, with some of the benefits in mind, let's get started, shall we? Okay, to begin, we're going to need a keg that will be larger than our batch size, just like any other fermenter that you use. So for this example, I'm using a 6-gallon Torpedo Keg, which would work for a 5-gallon batch. It's important to have enough headspace in the keg so when the cryogen is at its peak, it can't escape out the spunding valve on the gas side. Now, the second set of items you'll need for this is a floating dip tube setup. And this one includes the setup instructions, the stainless steel floating ball, a short dip tube, which is 3 inches long, and then tubing that's a 1/4 inch diameter to match the floating ball and the dip tube, and it also has to be long enough to reach the bottom of the keg. And just like all ball lock kegs, there's an in-gas post and liquid out post. To install the floating dip tube, the first step is to remove the out post on the liquid side to access the dip tube that's in there. Using a wrench, I'll loosen the post until I can unscrew it by hand safely. And then I'll pull out the original dip tube out of the keg and replace it with this 3-inch dip tube that came in the package. Next, I'll rescrew the outpost back onto the keg and hand tighten it first, and then to make sure it will hold a seal, I'll tighten it with a wrench again. Now to install the dip tube, I'll need to remove the lid on the keg and add the tubing that was connected to the floating ball. But taking a step back, since you can't see in the keg when I do this, I'll show you what this looks like set up outside the keg. So first, attach one end of the 1/4 inch tubing to the 3-inch dip tube, and then the other end of the tubing can be attached to the floating ball. And simply seal up the keg once it's all attached with the floating dip tube installed, and we'll move on to the next step in this process. Now, to ferment under pressure, you'll need a spunding valve, which allows gas to be released when the pressure inside the keg reaches specific psi. A spunding valve has 3 key parts. There's a gray gas connect, the pressure reader, and the release valve. Simply connect the gray gas connect to the in-gas post to get started, and then for this specific one from Kegland, the yellow turn knob controls what psi the valve will release the gas once it hits above that desired psi. It's generally said that the preferred psi for fermenting under pressure is somewhere between 10 to 15 psi to achieve the maximum benefits. So in this case, the one I got was preset to 20 psi, so I need to turn the yellow valve clockwise to release the pressure until I reach somewhere around 10 psi. Now, because this keg is brand new to me, and I need to set this up, so I'm going to clean it with some PBW first. I'm going to use about 2.5 gallons of water that I heat up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit, and once it reaches that temperature, I'm going to add in some PBW to that hot water. And again, once I hit my target temp, I'm going to turn off the brew kettle because it's an electric kettle, transfer the cleaning solution into the keg, and with all those solutions inside, I secure the lid on top and give everything a good hearty shake. Then, to clean the lines that are installed, I attached a liquid line on the liquid side and added some CO2 to force out some of that cleaning solution and force it through the dip tube. To finish cleaning out the keg, I repeat the same process with clean water, and will sanitize with Star Stain right before using it for fermentation. Make sure to subscribe, as in a future video I'll be using this keg setup to ferment a beer under pressure. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.